Momentum is quietly shifting in Los Angeles, as with Ken Holland making the recent signing yesterday of Alex Laferriere, another signing is reportedly imminent with Adrian Kempe's extension on the horizon. We also have a huge update from LA Kings heading to the Team Canada summer orientation camp for the Olympics, including a very young star, with what a lot of analysts and people online, with all them saying the Kings had a rough start to the offseason, some even having them having the worst offseason so far. The narrative is quietly shifting as an LA Kings team that was underestimated last year from the get-go, they seem to be repeating themselves now. We got to dive into what the Laferriere signing actually means, the detail behind it, a recent update on Adrian Kempe, Quinton Byfield, and all that coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. And we'll actually start with Byfield and Team Canada, as Macklin Celebrini, Connor Bedard, and Quinton Byfield among newcomers joining Canada's 2026 Olympic orientation camp, which will take place in August. And the full roster has a bunch of different people on it. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, but just wanted to highlight how cool this is, right? It's not very often players as young as guys like Celebrini, guys like Bedard, and guys like Byfield get a chance to represent their country at the Olympics. Yeah, it happens with some other countries, but for a team as stacked as Canada, or even the US has some young people going, it's really an honor and a privilege. You got Doughty there as well, which is really cool. Again, it's not like they're locked in as getting roster spots, but to just be invited to the orientation camp is great when some other like really good players, for example, Nazem Kadri, wasn't even invited. Would I pick Byfield over Kadri on my favorite team? Yeah, I would probably pick Byfield, but still, like, Kadri is a veteran. So to get the call, even to go to the orientation camp, even if you don't crack the Team Canada roster, is unbelievable. And I think one of the big reasons here is because Quinton Byfield brings a certain element that, like, is just really hard to find. I mean, we all know that, right? When you watch Quinton Byfield play, on any given night, the guy could easily look like the most dominant player on the ice, both physically and skill-wise. He has so many highlight reel goals. He uses his body very well to get to the net, but I don't need to tell you that. We can just look at the stats as well. And while this season did mark a downtick in production, the goal scoring looked to get good, and he was off to a rough stretch in this season as well. So there were moments this year where people were really low on Byfield, not necessarily Kings fans, but a lot of other NHL fans, because when you look at just the numbers for certain stretches, they're like, oh, well, he's just not taking that leap. Byfield has looked so much more mature physically, at least in my eyes, and maybe your guys too. Leave me your thoughts on him down below, that like, to leave off a guy who is 6'5", 225, who can score, I think is going to score between 25 and 30 goals this season. I think he's primed for a big jump up to like 65, 70 points this year. And I think it'd kind of be crazy if he didn't reach that within the next year or two. Like, having this guy, at least in your orientation camp, to know a bit more about him, to get ready for those Olympics, when he comes shooting out of a cannon on this LA Kings team that I think somehow fans around the league still underestimate, as soon as he comes out flying, if that happens this year, he's going to get that call pretty early, at least to be one of these finalists. Maybe I'm selling him too high, but I don't think I am. Like, Quinton Byfield, I think, is in a great spot, so I just wanted to highlight this and how cool it is to not only see a 22-year-old, but a guy as big as him, the size, and just even over some other veterans who maybe didn't make the cut to this orientation camp is really, really cool. But we got to move on. And before we do, hey, make sure you hit that free subscribe button, because we got stories coming out on all your favorite NHL teams all off season long. It's completely free to hit the button. We're pushing 20,000. Thank you for being here and watching this video. Yes, you who clicked away from this tab. Come back. Thank you for being here. Let's move on here now, and I want to talk a bit about Alex Laferriere, because we know the contract has been signed, right? I mean, there's no secret here with this contract. They signed him to the 3-year, $4.1 million cap hit deal. I gotta say, I was a bit surprised by some of the reactions I saw. From Kings fans, it mostly seemed to be, yeah, I mean, that's reasonable, maybe a little higher than we thought. But some people that I think are not tuned in to the Los Angeles Kings have looked at this and said, hey, you know, I think that's too much for him. Oh, we're walking him to free agency. But they're not. Like, I feel like people didn't realize that this is a bridge deal, which is very common in Los Angeles, to bring him to that last eligible year of being an RFA. So, like, 3 years, 4.1, it'll get Alex Laferriere a lot of the money at the end of this deal. He'll be able to sign a big extension at the age of 26. He's 1 year from being UFA eligible, as you can see here from Puckpedia. And honestly, for his production in a rising cap era, I think this is a great deal. But again, this is not a video to talk about the Alex Laferriere deal necessarily and whether it's a good fit for him as a player. I mean, I think it is, but I think I want to talk more about the shift in perception on this offseason for the Los Angeles Kings, because you know, I've seen these rankings, these tier lists for the offseason. Like, I think about a month ago, there was one circulating online that had the LA Kings. They were the only ones in the F tier, which to me was shocking. Like I get it. I know there is a lot of fans around the league. They see Ken Holland moves, and they see that Cody Cece signing, and they see losing a guy like Vladislav Gavrikov. It's tough, right? And the Cece signing, I'm still not a fan of. Sorry, Kings fans. I know a lot of you guys aren't either. But at the same time, it was time for this narrative to shift, because the LA Kings, I think, in past years have been a bit underestimated heading into seasons. Like, I think just last year, I feel like fans were saying, oh, maybe they're due for a downturn. And then they came out and had a good year. Like, I don't know. I feel like this is one of these things that shifts the momentum. Byfield getting invited to this orientation camp. Doughty too, but Byfield especially, just to show that he's ready to take that leap. Laferriere inking, in my mind, what's going to look like a very solid deal. If he keeps anywhere near this production, and if he can step up in this lineup to become that kind of second line right wing, this could be an absolute steal. Like, if he goes up to 25 goals this year, which is not completely out of the question, especially if, say, he plays with someone like a Byfield who also takes a leap this year, I think that's very possible. These two guys, this young core of center and winger who could be playing a lot together in the future, maybe, like, this could make a lot of sense. And at $4 million, if you're scoring 25 goals, getting 65 points in the NHL, which is not crazy to project for Laferriere, maybe closer to 55 points this year, that's pretty good, especially with this rising cap. And look, we don't have to worry about the rest of the money for another 3 years now. So to me, this is just a good narrative shift for the Kings. And then also, when you look at this signing, this is just the one domino to fall before the Adrian Kempe move. Because Laferriere, again, locked up for these 3 years. It's going to be good. You get him for these next 3 years on the bridge. Fine. But then you have Kempe, who I'm assuming is going to come in at around 10 million. We'll have to see what gets done. But I have this is an article linked down below as well that talks about it. Is that Holland and Kempe are on record with wanting to get a long-term extension signed this summer. Training camp opens in 7 weeks. He's also just 28 goals back at Charlie Simmer and will tie Wayne Gretzky with another 52 goals scored. Kempe's averaging 34 goals per season over the past 4 years. And when you look at this Kings offseason, you can go from having fans saying this is horrible, the CC signing, and oh, like I don't like what they're really doing in the forward core. You know, they got Kuzmenko just for 1 year. I mean, is he just going to walk after this year? So there's all these questions. But if you can go from that to having Byfield being one of these finalists, sort of, for Team Canada, you can go from that to getting Laferriere, who could very well be a steal at 4.1 million for the next 3 years. Yes, you'll have to sign him for longer after that, but he's still going to be an RFA. And then you lock up Adrian Kempe. Yes, we know Kopitar, his career is kind of winding down at this point. Fiala, he's still producing. I mean, I think at his contract's cap hit, with the cap going up, it's not going to be as bad. I think the cap going up is going to offset any decline we see from Fiala, at least in my mind. And you have such a solid bottom six overall and a lot of movable contracts. Like a guy like Trevor Moore could very well be moved if he gets off to a hot start this season. I mean, it's a bit of money, but again, with the cap going up, it's not too bad. He doesn't have an NMC on his contract, I don't believe. You know, and that fourth line, you got Armia, you got Perry, who's, you know, an annoying signing, like a lot of people say, but he's designed to be there for the playoffs. Armia was one of the better penalty-killing forwards in the Eastern Conference last year. There's a lot you can do with this forward core, and I feel like, once again, there's a lot of underestimation of LA. Have all the signings, have all the moves been great? No, definitely not necessarily. I mean, losing a guy like Gavrikov does kind of hurt, and again, the CC signing, it's something that everyone's going to bring up until the end of that contract if he doesn't live up to it, which he very well might not. But I feel the narrative is shifting, and I feel like that starts here with Byfield and Laferriere, and I think the Kempe thing's just going to be another domino to fall, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know your thoughts on all things LA Kings. Am I bang on? Am I wrong? I'd love to hear all your thoughts down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in all off-season long. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.